France was collapsing under debt, and in desperation, a fugitive gambler convinced them to replace gold with paper. Within a few years, his system made people rich overnight. Ordinary citizens became millionaires. The entire country bet on his idea, and for a moment, it worked, until it didn't. What followed wasn't just a collapse, it was panic, a system built on trust, breaking in real time, and at the center of it all was a man who turned debt into an empire and lost everything when belief disappeared. His name was John Law, a gambler, a fugitive, and somehow the man who would take control of France's economy. In 1694, he killed a man in a duel over a woman and fled justice, condemned in absentia. He lived in exile across Europe, Venice, Amsterdam, Genoa, chasing dice, cards, and ideas. And from that life of risk came a revelation. Money itself was a game of confidence. Gold and silver are heavy, scarce, slow. But paper? Paper moves. Law argued that money didn't need to be metal. It only needed trust. Trust could be printed, circulated, multiplied. And if trust could be managed, so could nations. France was bankrupt. Louis XIV had waged too many wars, built too many palaces, spent too much on glory. The treasury was dry, the currency debased, the people restless. The regent, Philippe of Orléans, needed a miracle. John Law arrived with a miracle disguised as paper. In 1716, Law founded the Banque Générale. It issued notes not tied to gold in vaults, but to royal debt, promises on parchment. The idea was simple. Paper was lighter, faster, more flexible. Merchants loved it. Trade revived, shops reopened, wagons rolled. For the first time in years, Paris breathed again. The elite were skeptical until they realized the notes always spent. Soon they carried rolls of Law's paper, not coins. Confidence spread like fire. And behind it all, one gambler smiled, because he knew he wasn't just printing money, he was printing power. By turning metal into myth, John Law had made himself indispensable to a kingdom, and he was only getting started. Paper money had revived France's trade. But for John Law, printing notes was only the beginning. The true game was scale, and he knew that once money flowed, empires followed. He proposed a bold fusion: merge his bank with a trading company that claimed vast rights in the New World, the Mississippi Company. Its charter covered French Louisiana, a territory stretching from the Gulf of Mexico to Canada, millions of square kilometers, almost a continent unto itself. To Parisian investors, it looked like infinity, and John Law offered them a chance to buy it. Shares in the Mississippi Company were sold to the public. At first, nobles scoffed. Then they watched prices soar. A single share tripled, then doubled again. Fortunes appeared overnight. Shopkeepers sold stalls to buy stock. Aristocrats mortgaged estates. Servants pooled savings. Every Parisian wanted a piece of Louisiana's dream. The mania was so intense that streets around his offices were impassable. Traffic laws had to be issued to control the frenzy. Overnight millionaires were born. In France, they were called millionaires for the first time, and John Law stood at the center of it all. In 1719, Law's power became absolute. He was appointed Controller General of Finance, the man who ruled France's money, trade, and taxation. In practice, he had become the economy itself. Investors believed Louisiana was paved with silver. They imagined plantations, mines, endless trade. In reality, it was swamps, mosquitoes, and struggle. But truth mattered less than trust, and trust was booming. By tying paper money to the dream of the Mississippi, Law had discovered the ultimate alchemy: debt into wealth, promises into profit, myth into empire. For a moment, it seemed unbreakable. He hadn't stormed a palace, he had stormed the balance sheet, and with it, he owned France. The Mississippi Company was no longer just a stock certificate. Under John Law, it became a state within a state. He promised colonists land, soldiers security, and investors endless returns. But while Louisiana was the story, Paris was the stage. And in Paris, he played the role of sovereign. He expanded control beyond banking. The company gained monopolies over tobacco, African slave trade, and all overseas commerce. Law controlled the flow of goods, the flow of money, the flow of dreams. The economy no longer belonged to the king. It belonged to the company. To protect assets, he raised security forces. Private men in the king's livery, answering first to him. They guarded warehouses, then banks, then ministries. Soon his reach resembled an army, quiet, efficient, loyal. He played philanthropist as much as financier. Schools, hospitals, public works, roads paved with company funds. The people saw progress, and progress wore John Law's insignia. In the courts of Paris, nobles grumbled. They owed him their fortunes, yet despised their dependency. Ministers plotted, but none could move against him, because Law's empire wasn't just money, it was confidence. Pull him down, and the edifice might collapse on them all. By 1720, his company's shares represented the wealth of the nation. Taxes, trade, salaries, investments, all intertwined. The monarchy, the nobility, the merchants, every level of France was bound to the Mississippi dream. From gambler to fugitive, from banker to minister, he had achieved what no monarch had dared. He had bought a nation, and in doing so, he set the stage for its ruin. Every mania burns brightest before it dies. By 1720, shares in the Mississippi Company had soared to 20 times their original price. A valet could retire on his holdings. A baker could become a lord. But beneath the hysteria lay swamps, mosquitoes, and promises that could never be fulfilled. The reality of Louisiana seeped back to Paris. No rivers of silver, no mountains of gold, just hardship. The dream began to crack. Investors who once rushed to buy, now rushed to sell. Law had printed too many notes. Inflation climbed, food prices rose, confidence faltered. Holders of paper demanded hard coin. The bank could not deliver. The system he built on trust was collapsing under the weight of belief turned doubt. In May of 1720, the bubble burst. Shares plummeted, fortunes vanished, Paris streets filled with fury. Bankrupt nobles, ruined merchants, servants turned beggars. The same crowd that once worshipped John Law now cursed his name. Desperate to save the system, Law issued decrees, revalued shares, forbade large cash withdrawals. Each measure only deepened the panic. Confidence is air, and once lost, no law can command it back. In December 1720, hunted by creditors and cursed by mobs, John Law fled Paris disguised as a commoner. Behind him, the Mississippi bubble left France scarred. Paper money was outlawed. Trust in finance shattered, and a gambler who once ruled an empire was reduced to exile. In 4 years, he had risen higher than kings and fallen lower than thieves. His empire, like paper, had burned. John Law died in 1729 in Venice, not as a minister, not as a magnate, but as a gambler once again. He left behind no empire, no fortune, no legacy his name could rest on, only a story. The man who bought a nation with promises and lost it in panic. In France, the fallout was catastrophic. Families ruined, merchants bankrupt, nobles stripped bare. Paper money was banned for nearly a century. The Mississippi bubble scarred a nation already fragile and fueled the resentment that decades later would ignite revolution. And yet, John Law's vision never died. Every crash since echoes his experiment. The South Sea bubble in Britain, Wall Street in 1929, the dot-com mania, the housing collapse of 2008, crypto's rise and ruin, all follow his pattern. Trust conjures wealth, belief sustains it, fear destroys it. The lesson is brutal, but timeless. Wealth is not metal. It is myth, and myths live only as long as people believe. The moment faith cracks, fortunes dissolve. Kings can command armies, but no king can command confidence. John Law proved that you can buy influence with paper. You can rent obedience with promises. You can even make a nation dance to your notes. But when your empire rests on trust alone, a whisper can topple it faster than any army. This is the story of John Law, the man who turned debt into an empire and lost everything in the silence that followed. This is Striver, power, money, and the hidden hands that shape them. Subscribe for more stories history tried to bury and the lessons they still whisper today. Because every empire is built on belief. The question is, how long will they believe in yours?